that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. So lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell, the famous
Hello,
Tom
people.
Fennell. And we are here for Energy Week, and it is the news of the week ending February 24th relating to energy and climate change. I get up at an unreasonable hour every morning, almost every morning. And every morning, it's true. I get up altogether too early in the morning, and I start working on energy and climate change, looking through the news, find everything that I can, and put 10 or 15 items, each a synopsis of things that have happened in the previous day at my blog, geoharvey.wordpress.com. And Tom and I talk about it every week. So here we are.
Well, the first one we got.
Back
home in New England.
It's back home in New England.
Deepwater scores for New England is the
headline. All right.
And it's about Block Island.
About Block Island. Deepwater Wind's 30 megawatt Block Island offshore wind farm was selected in a 34 gigawatt New England capacity auction. The wind farm committed to supply 6.8 megawatts. The auction was to cover projected demand starting in 2019 to 2020. It closed at this says $7.03 per kilowatt hour. That's not what it is. Per kilowatt. That doesn't make any sense to me at all.
I don't know much about this bidding, but
I don't get it.
I would expect it to be kilowatt hours, and it would.
I would expect it to be kilowatt hours.
The number is off.
After 4 rounds of competitive bidding, this is from Renews. The folks at Renews probably know how the bidding works, so I would guess that it's the correct.
Well, we got a different figure here. So National Grid was successful in this auction for getting that 6.8 megawatts, and they're paying 24.4 cents per kilowatt hour for it.
24.4 cents.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money.
It's under a 20-year power purchase agreement, too. They got a good deal.
Wow.
Deepwater expects to install 150 6-megawatt turbines. They're pretty large this summer and commission Block Island before the end of the year.
Wow.
Well, they're going to be busy.
They're going to be busy. Yeah. Yep.
They're going to be busy.
Okay. Our next item, that was from Renews. Our next item is from PV Magazine, and it's about our friends in Peru.
Yeah, Peru awards 185 megawatts of solar PV at US $48 per megawatt hour. Now that makes more sense. That's 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour. That makes more sense than 24.4. 24.4 makes a lot of sense to National Grid, I'm sure.
Yes. This is from PV Magazine. Peru awarded 185 megawatts of solar PV projects at an average price of $48 per megawatt hour. Did you just say that? Maybe you didn't. In a renewable...
No, I said something different.
Okay. In a renewable energy solicitation, Bloomberg, New Energy Finance head of solar analysis, Jenny Chase, says she has never seen a contract for power from solar PV this cheap at any nation that does not offer tax breaks.
I did say the same thing, but not in exactly the same words.
Okay.
Okay, 3 wind projects were also awarded.
Yeah. Yeah, but if this is 4.8 cents per kilowatt hour for solar.
Good. Yeah.
And just think about that.
That's less than a nickel.
It's less than a nickel. It's less than they sell natural gas generated electricity for. And this is the way the system seems to be working. Wind power about 2-3 years ago fell below the cost of combined cycle natural gas.
Yep.
And now solar power has not only gone below the price of combined cycle natural gas, it's starting to go below the price of wind power.
Well, in this particular instance, the wind power was $36.
So it was cheaper.
A little bit cheaper, yep.
But not much.
And they also had biomass and hydro. These people down in South America are asleep now.
No, they are not. I think there are people in Washington who are asleep. But nevertheless, the people in South America are way out ahead of us, and the Chinese, of course, are way, way out ahead of us. Sorry about that, everybody who is concerned about the United States as a nation, Donald Trump,
Yeah.
and all the rest of your cronies. Okay.
This one's a little bit more grim.
Grim. Green
The
Tech
oil
Media.
industry. Yeah, Green Tech.
Yep.
The oil industry could lose 1/3 of its workforce in 2016.
1/3 of its workforce. This is the entire oil industry.
This is worldwide, I believe.
Worldwide could lose 1/3 of its workforce. And why is that? Well, let me read this. About 1/3 of the world's publicly traded oil companies are at high risk of going bankrupt, according to a report from consulting and audit firm Deloitte. The firm put out its finding after closely examining 500 publicly traded oil and natural gas exploration and production companies worldwide. And you know, this is we have just started seeing the pain that the oil and natural gas industry is going to be
They do
going
explain it kind of in that way. The threat these companies face is a result of crude prices hovering near 10-year lows.
Yes.
Which has already prompted firms to slash their budgets and their staff.
Yeah. And what was it last week? BP said that the price of oil has to double for them to make a profit.
Something like that.
And
yeah.
I
don't see it doubling in the near future.
I keep seeing projections saying end of this year it's going to be the same as it is now, roughly. And sometime in 2017 it might start to ease up a little bit, and then all of a sudden everybody gets slammed, and with rising prices. And you know, we've been talking about what we were expecting, which a year ago, I think both of us were expecting rising prices in
I think
oil.
everybody was. And then the Saudis got into the act.
The Saudis got into the act. And honestly, I think this is kind of like the effect of peak oil, except coming out very differently from what people expected. It's because we're running out of oil and running out of air to burn it with.
I never thought of it that way. Gee, but you know, it's close to it. Well, they're trying. I'm a little conspiratorial about this. They're trying to get rid of their oil while it's still worth something.
Yeah. I don't believe in conspiracy theories myself, except for one or two. For example, I believe that two people, very important people, both had their birth certificates forged.
Okay.
One was Donald Trump's father, and the other was Donald Trump. Okay, I'm just having fun.
Yeah, moving right along.
Moving right along, we have a slide here from Austria.
Yeah, this is kind of a pretty spot, isn't
it?
it?
It is. This is a article from Bloomberg.
Well, you heard of power to the people?
Yeah.
This is power from the people.
Yeah. Okay. Austria's biggest utility is seeking to expand a network of virtual power plants where energy flows from customers with their own generators. Purchases from solar, wind, biomass, and hydro plants, often located on premises of existing power customers, rose to 100 megawatts last year from 4 megawatts the previous year. And you know, that picture is a picture of a weir. Do you know what a weir is?
Not exactly. I mean,
All right.
a different kind of weirs.
Yeah, this is
It's a little weird, isn't it?
Yes, it is. This is a weir, which is almost a dam, but it's not tall enough.
Okay.
Okay, and the thing about weirs is that when the water's flowing, the fish can swim in either direction. They just have to swim pretty powerfully uphill to get over the weir going upstream, but they can swim in either direction. And you know, there's a weir near Windsor Castle, and the Windsor Castle gets all its electricity.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, this is an old weir that was put up in Austria, and it's somebody came along when it was almost 100 years old and put in a 15 kilowatt electric power station, and now they can sell that power back to the grid. And this is important in Vermont, actually through the whole country, because we could double the amount of electricity we get from hydro without building any dams.
That's true. The dams are there.
The dams,
and there's processes in place to take advantage of exactly that.
yeah, but we've got to do better on that, I think.
This reminds me of, it appears from the picture that
Yeah.
this is their home.
It
People
does.
living there.
It does.
And a couple of times I've gone to Ireland. We've
Yes.
stayed in someone's home that's built over an old mill.
Yes.
And the guy who's a professional welder, he's a techie.
Yeah.
Okay, he's put in 2 turbines.
Yes.
And he had a heck of a hard time getting the Irish Electricity Board to buy his electricity.
Yes.
They didn't want it.
They didn't want
But he won. You know, they took him
Yeah.
to court, I guess, and he won. But
Yeah.
I forget how much he's generating. It's not giant, but it's there all the time.
All the
water
time.
goes over his dam
it. Yep.
and generates electricity, and instead of paying them, they pay him.
Right. That's the way people do it. That's the way we do it with net metering here in Vermont and in a lot of the United States. Our next item is from
We
the
got some good news here. This one's
BBC.
good. Yeah, let me get you up here.
Get me up?
Yeah.
You want to have people look at me? Okay. You tell them what the headline is, Tom.
Well, the California methane leak is permanently sealed, and that's in quotes.
Permanently sealed in quotes. Okay. A methane gas well near the U.S. city of Los Angeles. I'm sorry, it's not near it, it's in it.
It's in it, yeah.
Which has been polluting the air for 4 months, has been permanently sealed. Those 2 words in quotes, officials say. The Southern California Gas Company had been pumping heavy fluids and cement to seal the well. Natural gas leak caused thousands of people to relocate for a while.
This leak has counted for 1/5 of all methane emissions across the entire state of California.
Yeah.
This was a very big leak.
Yeah, it's a very big, we're talking about, what, I think it was 1,200 to 1,400 tons of methane a day, something like that. It was a
Well,
huge
I got
amount.
a total. Yeah, I got a quote from Erin Brockovich. You remember her?
I do indeed.
Okay, she described it as the worst environmental disaster in the U.S. since 2010.
Okay.
2010? The latest estimate for the amount of methane from the well is 100,000 tons, which is the equivalent of 2.5 million tons of CO2,
Yeah.
or 500,000 cars.
Yeah.
This
Well,
was big bad news.
big bad
Let me
news.
tell you.
Yeah, okay. And
Moving
our
along.
next item comes from Climate Central. And you know, Tom, put
picture
that
here.
graph up, but I want to warn people before they even hear the article. That graph is not ordered by year, it's ordered by size. That's
By
why
size,
it goes up so nicely from left to right. Go ahead, Tom, what's the headline here?
Well, 2015 shatters the hottest year mark, and 2016 is hot on its heels.
Yeah, this is from Climate Central. It's official. The 2015 was the hottest year on record, beating out 2014 by the widest margin in 136 years of record keeping. U.S. government agencies announced Wednesday the last globally record cold year was 1911, while 15 of the 16 hottest years on record have occurred since 2001, according to NASA. Now, 15 of the 16 hottest years on record, it is mathematically impossible to get 16 out of the 16 hottest years on record since 2001 because there's only been 15 years.
Well, if you look at that map, I got the order. It's the lowest one is 98.
Yep.
Then he jumped to 05, 06, 07, skipped 08, 9, 10, 11, no 11, 9, 10, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Right.
So we've been in a lot of hot years.
Yeah, 1998 was a record. And by the way, the record that it beat was 1997. 1998 was a record, 2005 was a record, 2010 was a record, 2014 was a record, 2015 is a record, and there is a fair chance, because we've got off to a good start, that 2016 will be a record, which puts us in mind of a question. that we could pose to the various Republican presidential candidates. Where in the world do you get the idea that this has slowed down? Really? I mean, it's like there's my own opinion of this. There is a cult out there. It's a religious cult called the Heartland Institute, or somebody who happens to be under their thumb, I would guess, which says this is what you're supposed to believe.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, for
I'm trying to think of his name. He's running for president, one of the Republicans.
John Kasich.
Kasich, exactly.
Believes in climate change. Man, no wonder his numbers are so low.
He referred to it as religious.
Yeah. Okay, he did.
Well, he didn't use the word religious, but I think he said the word article of faith.
An article of faith. Well, it is certainly an article of faith because it ain't science. Science says, no, that's not what's happening. We're not having a pause in climate change. It's going on hot and heavy, and it just gets hotter and heavier as time goes on.
Well, let's see what Al Gore has to say about it.
Let's do that. Okay, we're up to Saturday. February. I'm sorry, Tom.
6 reasons Al Gore believes we will prevail in a climate fight.
Yep. And this is from Echo Watch. Al Gore admitted to the TED 2016 audience in Vancouver on Wednesday, quote, "Every night on the news is like a nature hike through the book of Revelation," end quote.
That's an interesting
Whoa! My suggestion to anybody who has not ever read the book of Revelation is don't do it. It does not make you feel
kind of crazy.
It does not make you feel better, and I'm not sure that it makes you smarter. But there are things to learn from it. But it's a very uncomfortable experience, and that's what he's talking about. But he maintained, quote, "I am extremely optimistic. We are going to win this. We will prevail," end quote. And
I've got his 6 reasons.
Let's do that.
Quick.
Let's do it.
The first one is about renewables. Quality is improving and costs are going down.
Why don't you put both of us on, or maybe yourself for a change?
I can do that.
Okay.
There we go.
Oh, there we go.
Hi. Wind is growing at 15 times what they projected.
Yeah.
Okay.
What about that?
Solar is growing at 50 times projected.
Well, this is for the Energy Information Administration, which always gets everything in the future wrong. And if it has to do with wind or solar, they're
An article of faith.
An article of faith, that's right.
Costs have been dropping 10% a year for 30 years.
How about that?
This is significant.
Yes, it is.
In 2015, Germany, and we've discussed this one, got 81% of its energy from renewables.
Wow. Every time I hear that, it's like...
Dated December 12th, 2015. And we talked about this one. 195 governments. 195. That's a lot of governments.
That's a lot of
governments.
Got
together in Paris.
Yep.
Under the United Nations, and decided to intentionally change the course of the global economy in order to protect the Earth.
Yeah. And we're all going to make money as a result, except for the people who want it to be an article of faith that climate change is not happening. Okay.
Oy vey.
Oy vey. Yes, that's right. Do you know what vey means?
Whoa.
Yeah, you're right. It's like, whoa. Okay. Our next item is from Just Means.
Oh, microgrids in the American Power Network.
What an idea.
They're popping up. I just got a really nice
all over the place.
article about microgrid. Somebody sent it to me. And there's a big microgrid conference coming up in New York City.
Yeah?
It's only $700 to go to it, so maybe BCTV will send us.
I'm designing a nanogrid.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
How nano?
How nano? I want to put together a microgrid.
Yeah.
I live in a building that's on grid, but I want to have one circuit in it be off grid. So I'm going to put up, what my plan is to put up 1 kilowatt of solar power and a couple of batteries, and have that one circuit just running from solar power.
And what will it be running?
It will be running the apparatus that I would want to have there on an emergency basis.
Like a refrigerator?
Like a refrigerator, a sump pump, and a heater.
That makes a lot of sense, really.
Yeah. And so, if Hurricane Irene or Sandy decides to come back, I would have something that would just keep running. But since it's there, why not use it?
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
So that would probably cut my electric bill to whatever the connect fee is, because I use so little electricity.
Well,
I got my bill.
I bet you got something to say about smart microgrids. Here.
Smart microgrids, yeah, okay. Smart microgrids provide higher reliability and more efficient operation of distributed generation assets than conventional systems. Siemens is participating in a community energy resilient grant program in New York State and optimizing electrical generation at a Native American reservation in California.
Well, there's a quick takeaway about this, and this is what basically they're doing.
Yep.
Microgrid design and software control easily integrates and optimizes existing energy infrastructure, renewable generation, and load sources.
Right.
Okay, it's balancing everything.
Right.
While providing a scalable infrastructure for future expansion.
This is, you know, it's fascinating because
This is the way of the future.
you know, the thing that I tell people a lot, you and I both have a habit of repeating ourselves, I think. Anyway, I tell people this a lot. It is intuitively obvious because the sun doesn't always shine and the wind doesn't always blow. It is intuitively obvious that you cannot rely on them. If you want to turn on a light in the middle of the night, you've got to have something else. That's intuitively obvious. And the thing that I say is, it was intuitively obvious to Isabella that the world was flat. Now, the experience that they had in Germany was they had a grid that was the most reliable grid in Europe. Mm-hmm. And it was far more reliable than any American grid.
Is it really? Yeah.
The American grids, the average person in the United States experiences 2 or 3 hours of outage per year. In Germany, it was about 15 minutes.
Is it? Okay.
So, and a lot of that was because their lines were buried. But, yeah, which would be awfully pretty, you know, when you think about it, to be able to go through town and not have electric lines all over the place, and go out in the countryside and not have electric lines all over the place. But when they put in solar and wind and got up to those high numbers of power from renewable resources, their reliability improved from 15 minutes to 10 minutes of outage per average customer per year.
And that really wasn't something they expected.
Well, I think there may have been a few people who expected that, but this business of the smart grid, and particularly a smart grid made up of smart microgrids, with smart customers, or
all
talking to each other. I need this, you need that. Here's the resource that's got it right now. There's a place that we can prioritize. Here is a place that doesn't really need it right now. You know, yeah, you can even out the grid demand. You can make it lower. You can tell somebody that his dryer is going to have to wait until 11 o'clock tonight unless he really wants to put an override on it. Be willing to pay an extra dime. You know, I mean, it's
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, they're not forcing this on the guy. The guy has agreed in advance to let him do it.
Yeah, and depending on how
they have compensated him for that.
Yeah,
agreement.
and depending on how
sense.
it's done, it's possible to say no, I can't wait till 11 to have this.
Yeah, I need that
load dried. I'm willing to pay. But you know, there's another thing too. Tesla batteries.
Yeah.
Green Mountain Power has Tesla batteries available. We have
in stock now.
We have mentioned this before, and a person who wants to can buy a battery for $6,500 and install it in his home to give him a backup power in case you know, the grid goes down. But if he allows Green Mountain Power to take power out of that battery when they need it and replace it later, typically the same night, they will pay for that a certain amount every month, which is $30 some odd dollars.
Sounds like a fair deal to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, our next item is from the Weather Network. What do you think, Tom?
Arctic sea ice reaches a record low after a record
where
hot
are you?
January. Right after the microgrids.
Smart microgrids?
Didn't we just talk about that?
Yeah, we did.
So the next
Arctic
one is
sea ice.
Arctic sea ice. NASA's plot. You got the picture up there.
That is a NASA plot. I'll tell you what I've got.
We're talking about the same one.
Yeah, I believe, except I don't have I have a thing that says record heat of 2015, January 2016 is continuing the trend.
That's the same one.
Is it? Oh, you're reading the title. How dumb of me. Folks, don't pay attention to me. I don't know what I'm talking about. Go ahead, Tom.
Well, I read the title. It says record Arctic sea ice reaches record low. That's less ice.
Less ice.
After a record hot January.
Yeah.
And I'll bring up the picture.
Okay, there's the picture. There you see it, everybody. Now, that picture shows the difference between the temperatures that were experienced in January and the temperatures that you would expect to have experienced in January. And you'll notice that our part of the world was a little above average. But it wasn't by any means the part that was most above average.
No, the Arctic was really...
Wow.
Wow.
The Arctic was almost 11 degrees above average in places. After record heat of 2015, January 2016 is continuing the trend. It was the hottest January on record, and Arctic sea ice extent was at a record low level for the third time this year. El Nino has certainly played a role in this latest record, but scientists have concluded that this effect was fairly minor overall. This is from the Weather Network.
This was a good article. It was a long and technical article.
Yes.
If you guys are interested in weather, check it out. This is related to the warm weather we've been getting.
Yes, it is indeed.
And I'll read it real quickly.
Okay.
The larger culprit here is the rising levels of greenhouse gases in the Earth's atmosphere.
Really?
A shift in the Arctic oscillation, and we've heard about that same thing explaining our warm weather. Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm still not quite sure what that is, but this shift in the Arctic oscillation likely weakened the atmosphere barrier between the polar latitudes and the mid-latitudes. This brought unusually high temperatures to the Arctic in January. Storms arriving from mid-latitudes brought additional heat and prevented ice growth.
And warm water, I think, was another thing.
And warm water.
You know, this is we've just got to just remember, everybody, Al Gore is an optimist, and so am I, by the way, and so is Tom. I think I can speak for him on that one. Okay.
It's not so bad in the Antarctic as it is.
Well, maybe that's because there's a land mass there.
That could be the explanation. Yeah. Well, let's move along.
Okay. All right. We are up to Sunday, February 11th, and we have a nice little picture of a little car here. This is from the BBC. This is astonishing.
This is neat. You got the wrong picture. There was another picture in there with the doors open. It's a goalie.
Oh yeah. Well,
yeah, I want one. Tell them about it.
Oh, well, don't you have a title to read?
Meet the Rasa.
Yeah, Meet the Rasa.
As in tabula rasa.
Tabula rasa. Yeah. Everybody knows what that means.
Latin for blank slate.
Blank slate. Amazing.
So it's a hydrogen hopeful. That's what they call it.
Hydrogen hopeful. Welsh startup Riversimple unveiled its prototype car. 4 in-hub motors use recovery braking to charge supercapacitors that then release electricity back for acceleration. The hydrogen fuel cells don't power acceleration, they just maintain the car's speed. As a result, its 1.5 kilogram tank of hydrogen can carry at 300 miles?
That's 250 miles per gallon.
The equivalent, of 250 miles per gallon. Now, I actually looked up the price of hydrogen.
Uh-huh.
A kilogram of hydrogen costs $4 to $12, depending upon where you get it.
Okay.
So this is $6 to $18 worth of fuel.
For 300 miles.
For 300 miles. And when you get a demand for something, and the demand is being supplied, the price goes down.
Yeah.
And this involves nothing that's rare. Hydrogen is just obtained from water. And when you burn the hydrogen in this thing, it makes water.
Yeah. Little sideline here.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it. You probably know about it. It starts out Lanfair, PWLGW.
Well, Llanfair, I didn't.
It's the Welsh town that this thing is being made in.
F-A-I-R what?
Lanfair,
Yeah.
PWLLGWYNGYLL.
I'm missing. It's Llanfair Pwll something, and it is Llanfair means basically Mary's parish.
Okay.
The Fair, it's Celtic languages. You know about how Celtic languages are.
I don't know much about Welsh, but Irish is bad enough.
Irish is bad enough, yeah.
Yeah, I think Welsh is a little bit more difficult.
I think it depends upon your point of view.
Once you understand the rules, I'm sure it's easy.
No, it's there's a rule in Welsh, a set of rules that have to do with what they call an initial consonant mutation, and that's why it's Llanfair, not Llanmer.
Uh-huh.
Mer would be Mary, and Llanfair. The M is turned into an F because it comes after the word Llan. Now, the thing that's interesting about this is there's about 45 different rules about how this is supposed to be done.
Oh.
So you can start with the word car, which, by the way, is a perfectly good Celtic word. They didn't get it from the English. The English got it indirectly from Celtic people. Car. Okay. It can be car, C-A-R, char, C-H-A-R, nhar, N-G-H-A-R, or gar, which is G-A-R. And that's the way it's spelled. And it has nothing whatever to do with meaning.
Oh.
If you get it wrong, they'll understand what you're saying anyway, but they'll know you're not Welsh. Okay.
Interesting story about this particular car.
Yeah.
The business as they see it, this is the River Symbol Company,
Yeah.
is not car manufacturing, but a mobility system that's responsive to economic and environmental constraints. In their model, customers will pay a monthly fee for a car and all of the maintenance, insurance, and fuel that it takes to run it. Interesting concept.
But they don't pay for the car. They pay a fee for the car.
They pay, yeah.
Which means River Simple is interested in leasing you cars, but not selling you cars.
Yeah, they'll own all the cars, and you rent them.
Yeah.
And they take care of everything.
Yeah.
It sounds like a good deal to me.
Okay. So our next item is from the Burlington Free Press. We're back in Vermont.
Here's our buddy Kasich. We just talked about
We talked about John Kasich, yeah.
Kasich talks of climate change at a Vermont event.
How about that? At an event in Colchester, Vermont, Republican presidential candidate John Kasich was asked about climate change. He said, quote, "I know that human beings affect the climate. I know it's an apostasy in the Republican Party to say that. I guess that's what I've always been, being able to challenge some of the status quo," end quote. And that quote was the first thing this year that has got me tempted to vote for a Republican in the primary.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I will. I like Bernie too much.
Well, it's still interesting to see that Kasich is breaking from the lockstep Republican
Isn't it? Yeah, isn't
doctrine.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm alluded to this. He mentions it sort of in religious terms. He calls it an apostasy. That's a religious term.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
it is. Absolutely it is. And we get an explanation about some of this that goes further in our next item from Bloomberg BNA.
I'm going to look
Take
at
it
this
away.
car one more time.
Look at the car one more time.
Pretty sharp.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty sharp.
Okay, Ford drops its membership in the ALEC lobbying group.
How about
We've
that?
all heard about the American Legislative Exchange Council.
Right. Ford Motor Company dropped its membership in the American Legislative Exchange Council, ALEC. In leaving ALEC, Ford joins companies such as Google, Microsoft, and others that have concerns about the group's position on denying climate change and other stances they deem to be anti-environmental. And you know what, Tom? It looks to me more and more like Alec is just a party functionary of the Heritage Foundation group.
Well, the Koch brothers are big in funding.
Yeah, well, this I think is market socialism. You know,
Yeah.
socialize the risk, privatize the profits.
Absolutely.
You know.
Well, I'll give you a quick, if you don't know what ALEC is out there, ALEC has, I'm going to bring me up.
I'm going to bring you up.
Well, yeah, I can bring me up.
Yeah, do that.
Hey, bingo.
People should know what you look
You
like.
should know what I look like. Hi there. ALEC has drawn criticism for opposing state environmental and clean energy policies through the crafting of model legislation designed for state legislatures.
Yep.
They're working very much under the surface here. They're hitting the states.
They're hitting the states, that's right.
Other companies, now the word is getting out because several larger other companies have left ALEC,
Yes,
which includes BP, British
Yes.
Petroleum,
Yes.
Occidental Petroleum,
yes,
and technology companies Facebook, Google, and Yelp.
yes.
So are they rats leaving a sinking ship? Or
I don't
what?
think they're rats leaving a sinking ship. I think that they got into this thing because it was exerting a certain amount of power, and they wanted to be at the table, and they left it because they just couldn't stand the way the table smelled or something. I don't know.
Well, these guys have been getting kind of outrageous. At some
They have been
things
getting
they're
a bit outrageous. And one of the things I find interesting about ALEC and the Heritage Foundation and the State Policy Network and the Freedom Partners, which is putting almost $900 million, they say, into the next presidential campaign, congressional campaign, so they can control the government, the White House, the House, and the Senate. One of the things that that is interesting to me about this is that it looks, for all the world, to me, like the organization, the setup of the organization is a copy of the Soviet
Yeah.
cells
I think they
and
copied it.
committees. You know, I think that's what they did. You know, and the people who set it up to begin with certainly were associated with the Soviets.
Well, the Koch brothers' daddy, he made all his money in the Soviet Union.
you know, didn't John Welsh do the same sort of thing? And
I don't know.
I think
John
that
Birch Society.
John Birch Society, and Koch was part of the
Yeah, he
John
was,
Birch
right.
Society, and it was all. It was people who had been in the Soviet Union. They came back and said, "I really hate this place," and then they proceeded to institute systems that were kind of copied on it. And it's kind of scary, but maybe we should get away from that. What do you think? Next thing,
Let's move
Monday,
along
February
here.
22nd from Clean Technica.
We got a picture coming up.
We have a picture. Yeah, and I've got a misbehaving I've got a misbehaving thing here. What do I do? Oh, this thing really is misbehaving. Picture? Yeah, I've got a picture coming up. Sure,
You got
do.
it?
Not yet.
Oh. It's a graph.
It's a graph.
It's
Okay.
a very interesting graph, as a matter of fact.
Only what I have to do is get. Oh,
There
there we
we
go.
go.
And this is a real. This in this particular case, the graph shows things that are actually happening left to right by year. This is not organized by size. Well, it is organized by size, but that
It's
wasn't.
also by year.
It happens that it was organized by year, and the size happened to fall in place. And what this is this is from Clean Technica. You have a title for this, Tom?
U.S. solar PV industry installs a record 7.3 gigawatts in 2015.
Yeah.
Hey guys, that's a lot.
That's a lot, but the thing that's impressive here is the growth. Figures released by GTM Research and the Solar Energy Industries Association ahead of their scheduled U.S. Solar Market Insight Report, which is due March 9th, say the U.S. solar PV industry installed a record 7,286 megawatts of solar PV in 2015. This was 29.5% of all new capacity and beat out natural gas.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. I mean,
Well, looking at that, if you've ever seen an exponential curve, that's a classic.
yeah, it is.
It really is. I can't read the different colors of blue there, what they represent.
The one on top, which is a light blue, is utility. The one in darker blue in the middle is non-residential, and the one in a dark blue at the bottom is residential. And
Okay.
the fact that the Energy Information Administration, which provides a lot of the numbers, and FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, those organizations, they count the amount of solar power in the United States, but they have cutoffs, and they don't count it if it's below a certain
They
size.
don't cut the little guys.
And
They don't-
so
they don't
this is a
count
market
those
in
guys.
which the little guys constitute half the market. So they always miscount everything by 50% or so. This is a hard thing to kind of, you gotta, and so, but the thing is, we've seen growth. In 2013, renewables accounted for 41% of new capacity. In 2014, that had grown from 41% to approximately 50%. In 2015, it had grown from approximately 50% to approximately 75%. And it's just still growing. Meantime, coal has gone from a fair amount of power being put in to nothing. Last year there was 3 megawatts
New.
of new coal. Where there's 7,286 megawatts of solar, there's 3 megawatts of coal.
Yeah.
And that's and the amount of natural gas going in also declined quite a lot. And it looks like that decline is going to continue, and that we're going to be seeing numbers that will be upwards of 75% of all new capacity.
And what's causing all of this? It's the marketplace, isn't
It's
it?
the marketplace primarily, but it's being driven to a certain extent by the fact that the federal government is giving incentives but still,
Hey, the renewables are getting incentives. That's fine. But the fossil fuel's been getting incentives for 100 years.
that's right, and they're getting about 5 times as much as the renewables now. Something that the UN has been upset about. So should we go on to our next item, which comes from Grist?
I think we can.
Okie doke.
Oh, we're going to come back home.
Back home, Bernie Sanders. What's the headline?
6 things Bernie Sanders would do to crack down on fracking,
Yep.
even if Congress doesn't go along.
Yeah, and it sounds to me like he could crack down on fracking even if Congress doesn't go along. He's got his thinking cap on, as they say. Bernie Sanders hasn't proposed eliminating conventional oil or gas drilling or coal mining on private land, but he believes that fracking is especially problematic. He wants to halt fracking not just on public land, but also on private land. How would he do that? He has a list of 6 things he could do to stop it.
I've got the 6.
You got the 6. I thought you would.
Yeah, the first one is to change the Clean Power Plan to incentivize renewables instead of gas.
Right.
Second, regulate methane, not just carbon, through the Clean Power Plan.
What a good idea.
That's significant.
Yeah.
Methane is, what, 2.5 times?
20.
20 times.
20
times the
depending
effect of
upon
CO2.
how you measure it, 20 to 100 times as bad as carbon dioxide.
Well, the next one's related. Use the Clean Air Act to regulate methane leakage from existing sources and strengthen rules on new sources.
Right.
Well, we just talked about that out in L.A.
Yes?
Okay. Regulate containment of fracking fluid under the Clean Water Act, because it's leaking into people's reservoirs and people's water supplies. Investigate the effects of fracking and support state and local efforts to ban
Yeah, well,
fracking.
all you have to do to investigate the effects of fracking is look at that graph we saw last week of earthquakes in Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
Whoa! Man.
Something's going on.
Yeah.
Back in the old days, we used to blame it on men walking on the moon.
I believe it. Yeah. We have to keep going on this, though, Tom, because we're
Yeah,
going to be
let's
running out
move
of time if we don't do it. Okay, from Clean Technica, what do you got?
62,000 megawatts of solar power capacity possible on U.S. big box stores.
Yep.
This is an interesting concept.
Yep. Americana big box stores could host about 62.3 gigawatts of, which is what you just said, just expressed differently, of rooftop solar capacity, enough to generate enough electricity to provide for the equivalent needs of roughly 7 million U.S. households according to the report, and that is, somewhere around 25, 30 million people. The stores have about 4.5 billion square feet of space that can be developed.
There's a lot of potential here. I mean,
There's a lot.
These stores all have flat roofs.
Yeah.
And
you
there's
know
a
what?
lot of them.
It's interesting to me that they didn't say anything about the parking lots here.
No, just the roofs.
Just the roofs. Yeah. We could get a lot out of those parking lots.
Well, they're doing that in the Southwest. They're covering parking lots because protecting people's car finishes from the sun.
Yep.
Up here, they got to deal with snow, and that's a problem. I'm sure it's a problem they got a solution for.
Yep. There's solutions.
I had a number in here somewhere. Well, I'll give you this one. The 10 big box companies with the largest amount of retail space: Walmart, Target, Home Depot, Lowe's, Sears, Macy's, JCPenney, Kohl's, Costco, and TJ Maxx.
I've heard of
They have
all of them.
enough rooftop space to host approximately 17 gigawatts of solar capacity on their retail stores, or nearly 3/4 of the United States' current solar PV capacity.
Wow. Okay, we're up to Tuesday, February 23rd, and we've got an item here from Clean Technica, which is?
Electric buses.
Yeah.
Now this one's got me baffled. They're as efficient as HE double asterisk, and I'm not quite sure I know
I
what
have
that is.
no idea what it is,
Let me pull up the bus, though. It's an
Okay.
interesting looking bus.
This is from Clean Technica.
And electric buses there's nothing new about electric
No.
buses. They've been running in Boston for years and
Yep.
years and years. But they had trolley wires on them.
Yes, these are
These
battery.
things are battery powered. They can go where they want to.
Yep.
And there's two ways they can charge them. They could charge them at the end of the line,
Or at
or
every
they can
station.
charge them every stop.
Yeah. A new analysis of recent 12-vehicle Proterra electric bus demonstration put on by Foothill Transit in California by the National Renewable Energy Laboratory has found that these buses possess an average fuel economy roughly 4 times higher than that of baseline compressed natural gas buses. Again, we're talking about
Which is
electricity
in turn cheaper than diesel.
Yeah, and this is a picture of a Proterra electric bus. I think we can just go on from that.
Let's went.
IEEE spec. How many did I say? IEEE Spectrum gave us an article. What was that, Tom? Got it captioned?
Achieving Paris. Let me pull us up here. Achieving Paris climate targets could save nearly 300,000 American lives.
300.
We've talked about this kind of stuff.
300,000 lives by 2030. A study published in Nature Climate Change suggests that if the United States reduces emissions from transportation and electricity sectors in order to meet those targets, 295,000 American lives could be saved by 2030, which is only 13 years away. The study, 14 years away, sorry. I don't add and subtract very well in my head. The study also estimated near-term economic benefits could be over 3 times the cost. So, for spending a third as much as we would by burning the fuel, we could replace the fuel with something else and save that money and save 295,000 American lives.
Yeah.
Although you're not going to find anything positive said about this from the Heartland Institute.
Well, you normally don't even think about the COPD and the asthma and stuff like that people are getting from breathing lousy air.
Lousy air. Yep.
And it's, as you mentioned before, it's privatize the profits, socialize the costs.
That's right. Our next item is from the Japan Times. And it has, you want to read a title on that, Tom?
Global wind power capacity tops nuclear energy for the first time.
The capacity of wind power generation worldwide reached 432.42 gigawatts at the end of 2015, up 17% from a year earlier and surpassing nuclear energy for the first time, according to data released by global industry bodies. The generation capacity of wind farms newly built in 2015 was a record 63.01 gigawatts. So we are getting more power. We have more capacity. Shouldn't say we're getting more power. We have more capacity in wind than we do in nuclear now worldwide.
Well, there is a takeaway here, and it's basically saying that technological innovation in the wind industry has considerably lowered its generation costs.
Right.
While nuclear power continues to suffer a backlash.
Right.
Following the 2011 Fukushima meltdown.
Well, I think the backlash actually also follows a bunch of other things, such as the outrageous prices for the Hinkley C nuclear reactors and the wild, just mad costs of power that they have to charge from that plant if it's ever built.
I don't think it will be.
I don't think it will be. The price of the power that they have to guarantee to it wholesale is significantly higher than the retail price of electricity.
Something's got to give.
Something's got to give. And on top of everything else, we've got the nuclear industry in the United States walking around holding their hands out, hoping to be bailed out.
Well, we will be touching base. I think the last article we're going to talk about
we will
is
see
exactly
that.
that.
Okay. Our next item
up here
is from Mother Jones, and it is about coal.
And there it is.
What do you got there, Tom?
The world's biggest climate culprit, which is China, by the way, will shut down 1,000 coal mines this year with deeper cuts to follow.
Wow. The world's top coal producer and the biggest emitter of greenhouse gases will shut down 1,000 coal-fired power plants this year. It's a move that will simultaneously cool off China's oversupply of dirty coal and help tackle the country's air pollution crisis. Deeper cuts are to come. And that, what would you do if you were in the coal mining industry?
Get another job.
Yeah. I mean, the Australians were counting on the Chinese buying coal from them when Tony Abbott was running the Australian government, and here the Chinese are saying coal? What's that?
There is a political thing behind this. I mean, the Chinese people are starting to complain about not being able to breathe.
Yeah, and dying at a rate of about 4,400 a day.
And we've all seen the pictures of,
But
downtown Shanghai.
Right.
Wow.
4,400 people a day die in China from outdoor air pollution. It is crazy. Okay.
4,400 people a day.
A day.
That's a tough one to digest.
Yeah. And the Indians are admitting 1,700 in India, but honestly, I don't think that's true. I don't see how it's possible, because the Indian air pollution is worse than the Chinese, and it's or at least that's the reports I've been reading. Nevertheless, we are up to the next article, which comes from CanadianManufacturing.com, which is all one word. What's that all about, Tom?
Nevada's 110 megawatt Crescent Dunes solar project is now fully online. Now, we've talked about this project. I don't think we ever called it Crescent Dunes. We've referred to Tonopah.
Is it the same place?
I think so.
Oh, this is
Tonopah,
Tonopah as opposed to Ivanpah.
Oh, maybe it isn't the same place.
Ivanpah's in California.
Yeah.
Okay. Solar Reserve's Crescent Dunes solar energy project, which began testing operations last fall, has reached full production. The complex is the first utility-scale project with an integrated energy storage system that allows it to continue generating 24 hours a day. So this is a solar plant that generates 24 hours a day.
It's rather a beautiful picture there. I mean, it really
Isn't that
is.
something?
Well, what's going on here, in case you haven't followed it, is they're not solar panels, they're mirrors.
Right.
And they're focusing the sun on that tower.
Yep.
Right in the middle there. And that tower, what is it, 400 or 500 feet?
I have no idea.
It's way up
big.
there. And on the bottom of that tower, like a giant birthday cake, there's a huge tank that stores molten salt.
Yeah.
Which is operating at about 1,000 degrees.
Right.
And they use it to make steam,
Right.
to generate power. They're boiling water to make steam, just like they do in a nuclear reactor or a gas reactor or anything else.
Right. Fascinating system. And it makes power 24 hours a day, which means that old thing, not only is the intuitively obvious part of it not true, just like the world is flat is not true. It turns out that,
You know, that's coming back.
what's that, Flat
The
Earth
Flat
Society?
Earth Society.
Yeah, I think that the Heritage Foundation is probably paying for it. You know, I mean, really, it's ridiculous what they've done. They have stolen the entire right wing of of American politics.
There's 10,000 of those mirrors there. And it amazes me how they get them to focus all on the right spot at the right time. I mean, it's, I guess, pretty technically easy to do with computers, but
Yeah.
it's staggers, you know.
Yeah, and they have to keep moving all day long.
All day long, yeah.
To focus to you know.
There's a
upon.
couple of good pictures in this article if you want to look it up. But
Yeah, this is Wednesday, February 24th, and you can go to geoharvey.wordpress.com and see it.
you'll see that birthday cake.
They see the birthday cake.
It's
Okay.
about 50, 60 feet tall. It's about 200 feet wide. It's a big birthday cake.
Big birthday cake. And, you know, one thing that's always puzzled me about these things is how do they melt the salt to begin with? Because the salt, you can't have all that salt molten just from heating it in one spot.
I hear what you're saying.
And they use natural gas.
Do they?
Yeah, to heat these things up to get them going. But of course, once they're going, they're just going, and you don't have to heat them again until a
They're
unit like
continually
this.
being heated.
They're continually being heated by the sun
All day
and-
long.
All day long, and they have enough heat left over in the morning to keep them going, unless you have a long period of cloudy weather. So there is a reason why they use natural gas for that.
Well,
Okay.
that makes sense. They certainly they have to heat them some way.
Yeah, nothing's perfect, as they say. Okay, and our last
Okay, this
item
is
comes
last
from the
guy.
Daily
This is
News.
the last one we're talking about, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
The New York's Public Service Commission said it is speeding up a rescue plan to keep the Fitzpatrick nuclear complex in upstate New York running after the power generator said a proposal made last month wouldn't come in time to save it. The agency said it would offer expedited financial support.
Well, there's a backstory here. First of all, the plant's losing money.
Yeah,
Entergy's not making money on it.
yep,
The second of all is the grid up in that part of New York State is, let's say, not up to snuff.
yeah,
Okay, so they really need this energy.
yeah.
And I'm guessing now, I think that Entergy is holding their feet to the fire.
I think that could be.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. But basically what that means is there just aren't heavy enough transmission lines going through that part of New York
Exactly.
State to carry all the power that is needed. So they're worried about power outages if this Fitzpatrick nuclear plant is not kept open for at least a while. They have to replace it with something else. Eventually it has to close. Now,
The first thing to do is bring the grid up to date.
yeah, but the other thing too is it's interesting to see that this is happening because they've got a couple of nuclear power plants in New York State that have threats of being closed, and elsewhere too. But in New York State, you've got the Governor Cuomo,
Yep.
is saying, I want these plants to be open, this Entergy Fitzpatrick plant being one
Yeah.
of them. And then at the same exact moment, he's saying, I don't want
I want
Indian Point be open. I want it to be closed. And there's a reason for that, and the reason is because where Fitzpatrick is, up near Oswego, there's not a hugely dense population up there. But the Indian Point plant, which has 2 reactors, as I recall,
Oh, it's straight outside of New York City.
it's right outside of New York. If you remember, when the Fukushima meltdown happened, they had an exclusion zone, which the United States made. The Japanese said you're not allowed to go within a certain distance, but Americans were advised not to go within 50 miles of that plant. And if you look at that size of that exclusion zone and you put it around Indian Point, there are about 3 or 4 blocks of New York at the southern tip
That aren't in it?
of Staten Island that are not in that
Well, if you
size
look
zone.
at that whole area, western Connecticut, northern New Jersey, Long Island, New York
the
City
population
itself.
is huge.
You're talking what, 40 million people?
Probably. Anyway, that's our last item.
I think it is.
So we should have both of us up so that we can say goodbye, Tom.
I think we can do that. Goodbye, Tom.
Goodbye, everybody else.